Peace, what's good? This is Hip Hop Album Review Part 19. Let's get it started. First album for today is Black Moon's Enta the Stage. I already explained who Black Moon is. If you don't know who they are, check my Hip Hop Album Review Part 9, which I explained who they were, who they are, and I reviewed the Digging in the Vaults compilation album that I did. But anyways, this album, classic album in my opinion. If you like that dark, gritty, grimy hip hop, basement hip hop, you would definitely enjoy this album. Singles this album is known for are Who Got the Props, which is their first single, How Many MCs, I Got You Open, and Buck 'Em Down. I kind of feel like this album doesn't really get a lot of recognition, in the same of as like the classic East Coast hip hop albums, like the 36 Chambers, the Illmatics, the Reasonable Doubts, or the Infamous. And I kind of feel like that. Excuse me. I feel like this album, is right. It should be right in that same vein. You know what I mean? But oh well. But only the real heads know about that. But this is definitely a solid album. Black Moon at their finest. Fucking dark, gritty, jazz samples, jazz hearts, and horns, and all that crazy shit. You know what I mean? This is Black Moon Enta the Stage, released in 1993. Next album is Black Wall. I already did a review on this, and I just found out this album was actually out of print. So for my hip hop heads that have this album, keep it. It's a collector's item. I even checked on duckdown.com. They don't even have a copy of this, so that tells you it's out of print. So definitely, hold on to this album because must have for every hip hop head. Then we got Black Moon's second album. This is released in 1999, 6 years after Enta the Stage. Pretty solid album. Singles this album was known for 2 turntables and a mic, and this is what it sounds like. Pretty solid album. The album's not as dark. Excuse me. It's not as dark as Enta the Stage, but it's a pretty solid album. It has like a more futuristic, lo-fi sound to the album. You know what I mean? But pretty solid album. I fucking love this album. Very underrated, in my opinion. A lot of people don't really they don't know about it, or they do know about it, but it doesn't really get a lot of praise like it should. You know what I mean? But it is what it is. This album is unfortunately out of print, but don't let that get you down. You go on duckdown.com, their website, and they have it in their catalog, so you go cop that, or you can go on Amazon or wherever you buy your CDs. Like, you find it used, don't be hesitant to buy it. You know what I mean? But definitely a solid album. Must have in your collection. This is Black Moon Warzone, released in 1999. Then you got my man Brotha I already explained Brotha. I think in Hip Hop Album Review Part 3 or 4, I forgot which one, but I explained who he is. But this was the 24 Deep EP I was talking about, released in 1993. A lot of people should know about Brotha, or for those who don't know, he's known for like the horrorcore, talks about cannibalism and all that crazy shit. People consider him like the innovator of horrorcore. A lot of people might argue that, but who knows, you know what I mean? But back to this, released in 1993, solid album. It's not as dark as his later albums, but this is a must have in your collection. This is just a lot more samples than his later albums. His later albums use like more, live instrumentation, like, you know, keyboard sample, like keyboard you know, presets and shit like that. A lot of, you know, live instrumentation in his later albums, you know what I mean? But pretty solid album. If you're a fan of hardcore, a fan of Brotha Chung or West Coast hip hop, this is definitely a must-have in your collection. Brotha.19, 24 Deep, released in 1993. This is actually out of print too, by the way. Then we got Brotha.19, Season of Siccness. This is actually his debut album. Definitely a must-have in your collection. The only singles I know about this is what's the single? They have a video for it called Rest in Piss, which they actually have a video for. Pretty solid album. Again, at the time I was really into horrorcore back in the early 2000s, and you know, I just, you know, copped this album. Again, I'm a fan of horror movies, so you know, I like hip hop and horrorcore mixed with well, horror movies, and you'll have horrorcore pretty much. Pretty solid album. You know, motherfucker says about crazy shit like cannibalism, you know, Satanism and all that crazy shit. You know what I mean? Even though he's not a Satanist, but I believe he's like a atheist. I think he said it in a couple of his rhymes, or you know, his you know, he said it in a couple of interviews and stuff like that. Pretty solid album. From what I've read up on Wikipedia, according to Wikipedia, in 1996 there was an 18-year-old kid named Joseph Edward Gallegos. When he listened to the song "Low to the Brain," which appears on this album, and he would listen to it so much that he killed 3 of his friends, and then when the police found out, you know, they had a shootout with him, and then he got in a shootout with the cops, and you know, and he got killed in the shootout and stuff like that. And they were saying that the reason why he said he was depressed because he broke up with his girlfriend and things of that nature. So I mean, this is what I've read on Wikipedia. So what am I to know? Whatever they put, you know. Even though sometimes they put anything, but this sounds believable. But you know, I don't think music makes you do shit like that unless people don't listen to the music right. But you know, that's a whole different argument for another day. But this is Brotha.19, Season of Siccness, released in 1995. Must have in your collection. And then we got Artifacts. I reviewed their That's Them album that was released in 1997, excuse me. This is between a rock and a hard place, excuse me. Released in 1994. Considered a classic. Singles this album was known for Wrong Sides of the Tracks and Come On with the Get Down. Pretty solid album. If you like mid-90s boom bap hip hop, look no further, man. I mean, you can't go wrong with this album. What's cool about this, that song Come On with the Get Down also comes with the Buck Wild remix with Busta Rhymes. That's a pretty solid track, you know what I mean? Definitely a must-have in your collection. You know, like I said, Artifacts, they consist of members Tame One, who's Redman's cousin, and Elder Sensei, both from Brick City, from Newark. You know what I mean? Definitely a must-have in your collection. Be like boom bap hip hop, early to mid 90s hip hop. Must have in your collection. Then we got Natas, Life After Death, released in 1992. I reviewed their Do You Believe in God album. I think in Hip Hop Album Review Part 17 or 16, one of the two. But this is their first album, released in 92. Nothing to it. It's dark, but it's not as dark as the later albums. Especially like Do You Believe Do You Believe in God? Because in my opinion, the album is the darkest album in the whole catalog. This album uses more, it uses live instrumentation, like synths and all that, but it uses more samples. It's like more sample based. You understand? But like definitely a must have in your collection if you're a fan of Esham and Natas. The song was actually out of print. No surprise there, you know what I mean? But definitely a must have if you're into a horrorcore fan. If you're a fan of horrorcore hip hop, definitely a must have in your collection. Then we got Das EFX second album, released in 1993, Straight Up Sewaside. For those who don't know, let me check what's on. Yeah, alright, cool. For those who don't know, Das EFX they're a group from there's two members. You got Scoob, which is book spelled backwards, and Crazy Drazy, or Crazy Dre or Dre. They're a group. I guess a Brooklyn-based group. They both met each other at the University of Virginia, like some university in Virginia, and there was a hip hop. There was like a contest, like hip hop contest. Excuse me. And one of the judges was an EPMD, and Das EFX. They were you guys should know them from the with the iggity. Any sentence, any word they'll say that's like iggity, they kind of brought that to the game and shit like that. And a lot of rappers in the 90s brought that back, used that in their style as well. But back to the story, they were in a hip hop contest, and then they didn't win, but I think they won like second place if I'm not mistaken, like according to what I read up on. And EPMD liked them so much, pretty much put them under the wing when they were known as Hit Squad at the time. And then fast forward to 1992, they released their first album, which I do have in my collection, Dead Serious. A lot of people know them. A lot of people know them from that album. But then, like in the later albums, their popularity started like declining. The whole iggity diggity shit gimmick started getting like played out, and then people wasn't really checking for them like they used to. But and then in 1993 we have this album, Straight Up Sewaside. Pretty solid album. Definitely more hardcore than the first album. Their first album was like more lighthearted, it was more fun, but it was still street. This one's like more serious. It's not as popular as the first album, but this album and the third album hold it down on my favorite albums, and to me are their best albums. This album's like more hardcore. They definitely went more street, and in the first album they didn't curse, and this one they you hear a couple curse words and they say nigga and shit like that. In the first one you didn't hear none of that, but definitely a solid album. If you're a fan of EPMD or like early 90s hip hop, like that style of hip hop, like if you're a fan of EPMD's Business Never Personal album, you'll definitely enjoy this album. But a little bit more street, a little more grimier, then you would definitely enjoy this album. This album was actually out of print, unfortunately. But definitely a must-have in your collection if you're a fan of Das EFX, fan of EPMD, Redman, people, the whole Hit Squad. If you're a fan of that, you definitely enjoy this album. Singles this album was known for are Freak It, Back in Effect, and Caught in the Act. Freak It and Back in Effect both have videos. Unfortunately, the video for Freak It on YouTube, for some odd reason, they took out the volume for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know why the fuck they do that shit. It's stupid. But they have live performance version on YouTube where they performed on, I think, UMTV Raps. But this is Straight Up Sewaside by Das EFX, released in 1993. This is out of print. If you find it, go cop it. Don't be hesitant to buy it. Peace. Then we got Spice One's second studio album. For those who don't know who Spice One is, he's an MC that's from Texas, but then he moved to Hayward, California, which is located in like San Francisco, it's in the Bay Area, and he got discovered by Too Short. You guys should know who Too Short is. He got put on by Too Short. He put out an EP. I got a sheet here. His first release was an EP called Let It Be Known, which was released in the late 80s, like I think like 1988. And then in 1991 he released his self-titled album. 1992, excuse me. He released an album called Spice One, self-titled. And then fast forward to 1993, we have this album, 187 he wrote, released in 1993. Singles his album was known for are dumping them in the ditches, the Murder Show, and Trigger Has No Heart. Trigger Got No Heart. That song Trigger Got No Heart was a single. Was played on the Menace Society's movie, and it was also on the soundtrack, and which what made it a single as well. Pretty solid album. It's considered like one of the most influential gangster rap albums of all time. Rightfully so. I feel like Spice One is very underrated. He doesn't really get a lot of recognition because when people think of gangster rap, people think of Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, NWA, Ice Cube, Ice-T. I like them all, but him, Brotha Lynch, cats like that don't really get a lot of recognition. And I really think it's because of where he's from, you know what I mean? Because I kind of feel like if you're from LA, you're gonna get more recognition. But if you're from like San Francisco, people are not gonna, take you seriously, you know what I mean? But don't sleep on the Bay, man. The Bay got fucking dope talent, you know what I mean? But Spice One, 187, he wrote, definitely a must-have in your collection. This is, in my opinion, his best album. And if you can find it, go copy it. This album's actually out of print. Then we got Esham's sixth album, Bruce Wayne, Gotham City, 1987. Released in 1997. I already told you guys who Esham is. This album's okay. In this album, you could kind of see Esham trying to cross it over. He started doing a little bit more female-oriented tracks, like doing more female tracks. But it's still dark, but it's not as dark as his earlier albums or like the Natas albums. But it's an okay album. It's not his best albums. But if you're a fan of Esham, you should definitely cop this album. But this album's actually out of print. But again, like I said before, in the Kill the Fetus album or the Closed Casket, you go to acidrap.com, which is Esham's website, and you can get the CD there. You know what I mean? So this is Bruce Wayne, Gotham City, 1987. Must have your collection if you're a fan of hardcore hip hop. Then we got Coogee Rap's solo debut album. You guys should know who Coogee Rap is. Gotta start from the from the Juice Crew, Queens Crew, Juice Crew. Gotta start back in I would say like in the mid to like late 80s, I would say. He did a couple albums with DJ Polo, got his start, put out his first album with DJ Polo back in 1989, Road to the Riches. Then in 1990, he put out Wanted Dead or Alive, which in my opinion is their best album together. Then in 1992, they released their third and last album, Live and Let Die. Pretty solid album, but in my opinion, their second album together was Wanted Dead or Alive, which in my opinion is their best album together. Then fast forward to 1995, we have this album, Kool G Rap's 456, released in 1995, his first solo debut album. Album is pretty solid. It's a classic album. Very dark, gritty, street. Definitely a must-have in your collection. Singles is known for two singles. Fast Life with Nas and It's a Shame, which they both have videos for. Little trivia about this album. The song Take 'Em to War was supposed to be a video. They were supposed to have a video for that song, but because MF Grimm is in the song, but around that time MF Grimm got shot and he got paralyzed or whatever, and so they couldn't do the video. So instead, that's why you have Fast Life as a single, and you know you have the It's a Shame video. But pretty solid album. If you're a fan of Kool G Rap, this is Kool G Rap, and it's, I mean, I'm not gonna say it's prime, but definitely, like, if you like the dark, gritty, boom bap that you know Kool G Rap for, you'll definitely enjoy this album. 456, released in 1995, must have in collection. I would compare this album to a little bit of Illmatic and a little bit of Streets is not Streets, It Was Written, Nas's It Was Written. I would compare it to that, you know what I mean? But definitely one of his best albums in my opinion, must have in your collection. Then the last album we'll do for tonight is 3 6 Mafia's Mystic Styles, released in 1995. Let me see how much time I got left. Alright, for those who don't know, you guys should know 3 6 Mafia. You know, they got their start back in the early 90s, 91. You know, they put out, they're known in Texas, in the Tennessee, in the Memphis area, to put out mixtapes and things of that nature. And then, like, all the way up to like 1995, they released this album. Pretty solid album. Again, like I said, at the time I was hardcore. I was into the hardcore music, you know what I mean? Hardcore hip hop. Still am, but not really, you know, not really big on it like I used to be, because the hardcore now is kind of whack in my opinion. But excuse me. But the only single of this album is what's the singles? There was no singles. I don't think there was any singles. But interesting point of this album. This album, you know, is known, you know, uses a lot, talks about a lot of Satanism, a lot of you know violence and like all that crazy shit. One crazy thing about this album, track 4, Live By Your Rep, is a very notorious song because it's dissing Bone Thugs and Harmony. The reason why they're dissing Bone Thugs and Harmony is because when I read up earlier today, Bone Thugs was doing an interview back in like 94 and 95, back in 94 I would assume. And I think they were talking about they said something about people from like the South, or like people from Memphis, whatever, and they were saying like, oh, people from Memphis, they're country, and something, I forgot what they said, and of course 3 6 Mafia took offense to that, and then like and then the song Live By Your Rep, they responded to them, and then they dissed them back, you know what I mean, and they went back and forth and stuff like that. And also in the Live By Your Rep song, they accused Bone Thugs and Harmony of stealing their style, like with the whole fast-paced rapping and like what Bone Thugs is known for. Mystic Style, 3 6 Mafia claimed that they bit 3 6 Mafia that flow, you know what I mean? And it's been going on for a while, but they squashed it, thank God. But and another thing too, they have shortly after this album, they released an EP called Live By Your Rep, same year, 1995. it got, you know, Live by a Rap, and it also got a couple other songs too. That's actually out of print. Good luck finding that. But definitely, if you're a fan of 3 6 Mafia, you would definitely enjoy this. This is the 3 6 Mafia I like. I like the 3 6 Mafia when they went to horrorcore. They were like horrorcore. They were using dark beats and shit like that. Definitely must have a collection. Oh, and by the way, they have 3 compilation albums called Underground. They got Underground Volume 1, 2, and 3, which is a collection of songs that they made from the early to mid 90s, particularly from 1991 through like the making of this album. So it'll be like songs that didn't make on this album, as well as the second album, The End, which was released in 1996, which I don't have in my collection. But this is definitely a must-have if you're into Southern hip hop, and I have to say it like that because just in case you guys say, you know, oh, I already explained myself. I don't need to explain myself. But if you're a fan of real Southern hip hop and hardcore hip hop, 3 6 Mafia in their prime. And that's it, folks. Hope you guys enjoyed that hip hop album review. Stay tuned for more. Peace.